In our field we say that, okay, you give your 200% in your research, and then you forget about it. Whatever retains will retain with you and will translate ultimately on screen.
Melting Pot, a global podcast series hosted by Payal, connects guests who have inspiring stories and reaches out to a multicultural audience over 52 countries. Guests are diverse, such as celebrities, entrepreneurs, travelers, and many more who've had a turning point in their lives and moved over to a holistic lifestyle. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, social media.
Hi, everyone. Today I'm in conversation with the absolutely gorgeous Manjari Pupala. And Manjari is a very, very versatile actress. She's a screenwriter and she's also a model. So thank you so much for joining me today, Manjari.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Manjari, before we get into cinema and all that kind of goes around it, just a little background to you would be interesting, not just for me, but also for my viewers and listeners.
I should tell you about why I decided to become an actor, probably, and then we can move ahead with however the interview goes.
Okay. In fact, that was going to be my next question, but you've already. So okay, that's fine. Let's start with that. Yeah, that would be great.
Right. Okay, so the thing is, I grew up in a family where my dad was a theater lover. So, and my dad really believed, I belong to a Maharashtrian household, even if my dad was a South Indian. So we speak Marathi at home as my mother tongue, basically. And yeah, so he loved theater. And why I'm speaking about my language and, the household is because Marathi theater and the kind of amazing history it comes with, and the folk theater history that we have, it kind of changes the experience when you have that exposure as a child. And that did change it for me. So I have watched plays all through my childhood, and and he believed that a lot of societal issues are discussed in Marathi theater. And those kind of really, really important things were discussed in the kind of theater movement that was on when my dad was excited and into this theater circuit just as an audience.
Okay.
And if he were to like a play, he would buy like 20, 50 tickets and show it to the people. And he loved it so much that he also staged a play in his wedding. So
wow.
Yeah. So that it becomes a trend, and theater in general gets another platform altogether to perform in that context. So he was this mad experimental guy who kind of imbibed that seed of theater inside of me. And that really mattered, because when I grew up, I was studying for engineering, and I wanted to become an engineer, aeronautical engineer actually.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was studying for IITJs, AIEEEs, all these engineering exams. And suddenly I watched a play in my college after a long time, and then that blew my mind, and I wanted to meet the actors. And that's what my father did. After a play is over, he would take us backstage and show us around and stuff like that. So I went to meet that actor, and she wasn't backstage, she was still standing on the stage and talking to the people. It was an experimental play, and I stepped on the stage. And
how old were you when that happened?
I was in 12th.
Okay.
I stepped on the stage, and suddenly everything changed for me. I mean, it almost felt like that energy, like hugged me and just kind of, captured me.
Yeah. So you kind of felt that, okay, I mean, you felt like this is where you belong.
Suddenly, and I just went up as an audience to meet this really amazing actress. And by the way, she's still my friend, because I felt that performance actually started a new life for me. like after that performance got over, during the duration of that play was like, the duration, probably the page of my life was turning to another
Wow.
story altogether.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So then did you start with theater before you went into cinema?
Actually, I still do theater.
Oh, you still do theater. Okay.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
you do Marathi theater or you
No,
also?
I do Marathi, Hindi, English, all these three
Oh, okay.
languages, and I perform in all these three languages because I mean, I love the nuances and small little things that you get to really enjoy as an artist. And I really believe that a lot of times people feel that, oh, for experimental theater or things like that, there are no audiences, and there are no platforms. But I feel a lot of times only studying these plays so that you can perform, the process changes you. So the number of audience sitting in like those seats right in front of you wouldn't matter. What
Hmm.
matters is where is your journey. And I look at theater as like my constant study group, in a way, to put it very crudely,
Yeah.
because whatever I perform on screen and whatever I do, even if I'm dubbing, even if I'm writing for that matter, everything has actually emerged from that study material, that study time. And I think it's really important for all of us as artists to look at this field academically.
So, as a theater actor moving into cinema, is the transition different? Is it difficult? Is it hard? How does it work? Or is it just a very natural transition?
Um, I believe I really wanted to study acting, honestly. But because my approach towards acting is academic, but somehow I never got to learn acting, be it cinematic acting or theater acting per se. So for me, it became much, much smoother because I learned theater acting by observing people and actors, and I also learned cinematic acting with like the amazing co-actors that I was blessed with. So the moment I shifted from a theater stage to a camera, for that matter, I had co-actors who were telling me that, okay, listen, this is your angle and this is how you take light and this is how you speak, and if your co-actor is here, you can always take an angle and then come back to me. And those things, I always learned it on the go.
Hmm.
And in terms of the acting style, I feel it's a big myth that people think that theater actors take a long time to shift or adjust to camera acting, because funnily the soul remains the same
Yeah.
of of what makes you do something. Like in acting we say intent, the motivation for an actor to say a line or take a step. If your motivation is not emerging in every single moment while you're doing theater, then you're only going from one line to other, trying to project what you're saying, right? Because we see a lot of performances where on camera also there is a situation that demands you to shout, and a lot of times you have to really, really whisper. So it's so technical in a way, so the shift is not going to take much time at all. I mean, at least it didn't take much time for me. But what mattered more is whether I am staying in that moment honestly, whether I am staying there. And most importantly, acting for camera is almost like having your audience 2 feet away from you, so you can't lie. Like you can go ahead with a show without even feeling a thing about it, and then your audience will think, okay, this is what it is, because at a distance things become much less in detail. For that matter, camera is right here for me, so I have to be specific, I have to be more control. So in terms of longevity, theater gives you another challenge. In terms of camera and in detailing, camera gives you another challenge. So
Yeah.
these are just the mediums that you have to toss around.
Yeah, that's true. Except that I guess with camera, you can if you feel that, the emotion, like it's not coming from within, you can always have a retake. But with theater, you can't. I guess that's the only difference, right?
Somehow I never thought of it that way, you know.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Because it matters while you're performing something, or you're portraying a character. You're so immersed in it, you never think of a retake. Now, retake can happen, but I don't think so. As an actor, I have ever counted on that retake for that matter. Because for me, what is important is that one single impulse.
Yeah.
If I lose it in a retake, because I am just taking it for granted, then I'm losing on my performance.
Yeah,
So it's a
absolutely.
trick.
Yeah, no.
It's quite tricky, actually.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But because obviously, me as an outsider, um, that's the impression I would get. But I think coming from your perspective, it makes a lot of sense. How did so transition from theater, and you say that it's not really a transition because you still do theater and cinema. So you first moved into Marathi cinema and then Hindi cinema, or I mean, which one? What was your first film?
Oh, my first film was actually called Amir. It was a short film, and it was supervised by Zoya Akhtar. So the seven directors came in together, and they were given a topic called. My film name was Amir. The topic was sound. Okay,
Sound. Okay.
sound.
Okay.
Okay, and all those seven filmmakers came in together, and they made films on sound.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
And the name of the compilation was Shor Se Shuruaat.
What is one character that you have played, whether it's theater or Marathi or Hindi cinema, that has been like, I won't say challenging, but that's been like a process which has been kind of tougher for you than any other characters that you may have played?
I think the role that I played for my show on Netflix, it's called Bethal. So I was playing a character called Punya, and there's this girl who believed in Naxalism, and she's a tribal woman speaking in Gondi and Chhattisgarhi, and she is someone who saves them from the zombie attack that they go through, the entire military, and she's first against them, then somehow she manages to get around the idea of helping them, and then finally she kind of tries to save all of them. So that character was really really difficult, because when I auditioned, I had no clue what it's going to be like. And I've never been to Chhattisgarh in India. So, and I mean, let alone the idea of interacting with a tribal, I don't even have like a native place to go to. Like a lot of us have like, work happening in our urban areas.
Yeah.
And then you have a native place to go back to at least. But the first time I visited a village was when I was 15. So I had no clue. Born and brought up here. Both my parents belong to the city, Mumbai. So I have always been brought up in like I'm a totally city girl. Like there's no reference point. So I spoke to my directors, and they said that, well, we can try some of the methods, and why don't you just try and figure your costume. So I was wearing this the skirt that we wear inside the sari. So
Uh-huh.
I would spend about an entire month and a half wearing that skirt and just the blouse, and wrapping just like a chunni around my waist, and I was doing all my housework. And oh yeah, oh yeah. And then I also had a dialect coach, and every time I would go to Red Chili's office, I would go by bus and not drive there. I had
And
hot
in that
bucket.
costume, or no?
I only went there in that costume for the workshop period. In the
Okay.
table reads, I was like normal, so that people don't abandon me. It was that funny. We were once shooting in Yash Raj, and my mom said that, what, tell your crew that this lunch is upon me. And my mom came in with this amazing, like, entire
Right.
platter of food for the entire crew. And everybody was excited, and she was getting there to the studio, and she was in like an Uber. Okay. And I was explaining the driver how to reach where he's supposed to reach and which gate to enter from. And then he is like, okay, whatever, ma'am, aap bahar aa jao. You have to come out so that I know that this is the gate. I said, okay, don't worry, I'll come out. Then I came out, and then he drove past me, and I'm like, what the? And then my mom is telling me, that's my daughter. I mean, if you look at my look in Bethal, you'll get an idea. And he's like, मैं इनसे बात कर रहा हूँ, ये है आपकी
Oh,
because I
God.
was
Yeah.
dirty, like mud flooded. And it was so funny that, I was looking so weird. He kept on saying sorry, and I'm like, TK, it's okay.
Oh, gosh. Yes.
Your personality completely.
Yeah. So what kind of research did you have to do for this particular character? Because obviously you needed to also understand Chhattis, the whole tribal culture, right? And so was there a lot of personal research that you needed to do as well? And is that something that you do for all the characters that you play? Personal research in addition to what the production or the director kind of suggests in terms of workshops and things?
Actually, yeah. I mean, you can't keep that away, because it's not like you're given an assignment and you're supposed to finish it and get over with it.
Yeah.
The roles that I'm picking up are quite weird in a way, I would say, because these are the roles which I have never ever seen anybody playing or anybody doing in a particular way. But you have to be personally invested in terms of curious, because after Betaal, I was given a lot of other projects with the same zone, because they thought that I am from Chhattisgarh and I belong to the
Wow.
tribe kind
So,
of.
you were able to actually, it was so good and so real that you were able to convince people around that you're from. I mean, that is incredible. That's like really going into the character like 200%.
So it's almost like an iceberg.
Wow.
When you just see an actor performing something, there is so much that goes inside.
Yeah.
And particularly that tip of that mountain doesn't have to do with left side of that base, but that base is there. So a lot of research is not even used. But in our field, we say that, okay, you give your 200% in your research, and then you forget about it. Whatever retains will retain with you and will translate ultimately on screen. But that research is very curious, very important.
There's so many different aspects of learning for you. So that must be really exciting.
I think it has made me a better person, I would say.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when we grow up, as we grow up, we are taught a lot of judgments in the process of growing up, because that's how our societies are, for us to know or differ from right to wrong. But those judgments also keep us away from
Reality.
life experiences and reality, for
Yeah.
that matter, because we start judging people and compartmentalize them, for that matter. So it's interesting how this field makes you really, really intrigued in other people's lives, because actually you never know when are you going to play them. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful, because I have this really, really nice quote that I had read. It's from the book called Letters to the Young Poet. And it says that you have to first ask yourself at the bottom of your heart that, do you really, really want to create? Be it writing, and of course, Letters to the Young Poet is about writing, but it's for any artist, for that matter. That, you really, if you are not allowed to, like in my life, at some point of time, my father, who was an art director himself, never wanted me to pick up acting as a career. And I remember spending those 6 to 8 months almost like a zombie, and I didn't want to do anything else. And I realized I love this so much. If I don't do this, it is life threatening to the force inside of me in a way. So are you that desperate? I'm not saying I'm the ideal example of it, but are you that desperate to create? And if at all the answer is yes, then as an artist, you should also know that everything is inside of you and the nature around you. If you don't regard the people, the nature, the environment around you, you won't be able to create. If I look at my maid and say that, oh my God, why is she disturbing me? I don't want to see her face, or I don't want to talk to her too lowly. And if I have those standards and judgments around me, for anybody for that matter, for anybody, then I'm losing out on information. I'm losing out on life. And that makes me a shallow artist. And of course, ultimately, my work reflects that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, like you're able to understand people. Being observant, I think, is a very, very important trait to have when you're creating, because as you rightly said, you look at people or you look at nature, and if you just look at it with blinkers on, then you're looking at it, but you're not seeing it. So so no, absolutely. And it helps you create, it excites you, it's curiosity, as you mentioned. So I mean,
even when I was shooting for Amir,
yeah,
that lady, the mother, was
yeah,
actually a garland selling woman. And there was a first day of the shoot, and we were preparing, and I was given all the material, all the research process was done. But when we went on for the shoot for the first day, and they shot, like, they looked at the location and said they thought that the kid needs to finish his shot first. So I was sitting in my vanity just waiting for my shot, and suddenly I looked out, how long are they going to take? And there were these small huts near the railway station, and there were the people who were weaving those buckets, and all those telas that they make. So I just went to them just because I had time, and I started talking to the women. And they asked me what happened. And I said, no, they've taken my kid there and they want something. They're like, no, it's your kid. You don't look like a man. I say, yeah, my husband died in a train accident. And they say, oh, where do you stay? And then whatever.
they believed that you were actually
Yeah,
that. Yeah, wow.
because I was ready in my costume. I was looking how I was supposed to look.
Yeah, yeah,
And literally, I was sitting on the road with them, and those ladies taught me how to weave that thing, bamboos that they do, and they make those big, big things out of it. They taught me that. And they were talking to me and, like really chatting with me. And somewhere I had this as a cheap thrill in my head when I walked out of my vanity. But by the time it ended, I felt she had contributed so much in my life and towards that character, for that matter. Like the questions that she asked me, I
yeah,
never thought of them
yeah,
before shooting, because there was no information about my husband or no scene about my husband or
yeah,
how we met,
yeah, yeah.
But
So
because she asked,
so then you created a backstory in your head.
because I was supposed to be, I mean, I better be convincing. So and I
Yeah,
also feel a lot of times, if you don't get to do this now, when will you get to do it?
yeah,
Like, I am sitting in my, like, decently plushed house, driving my car, sipping like a really fat ass nice coffee. When will I get to talk to that woman who's weaving the bamboo things? So I feel it's really important for us to cherish these experiences and make the most of them in a
yeah.
way.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So, um, Hindi cinema versus Marathi cinema. Is there any difference, or in terms of approach, or cinema is cinema?
I think cinema is cinema. I mean, the working style might change. Um, the approach towards creating or telling the story that you want to tell shouldn't change. Of course, the scale is different and the distribution makes a difference because it's a regional thing. And, then you have something nationwide or even going across it now that OTTs have come in place. But the point is, what's more important is who or what story are you telling and who are you telling it with?
Yeah.
So there's this book called Sapiens,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I know Sapiens. Yeah.
Yeah, he talks about, my most favorite part of the book is he talks about how our species have survived because we wanted to tell stories.
Yeah.
We survived because we believed in other stories and we wanted to share those stories. So we were together to gossip and entertain each other. And
Yeah.
that's how the group survived in a way,
Yeah.
and that's how the species, survived the whole evolution and the process. The point of telling about this is that's how primal it is for us.
Yeah.
To tell a story. And if you're not telling the story with the person you want to tell story with, or you're not part of a narrative that you feel excited for, then the scale doesn't matter because there are so many Marathi films which are outstanding. They are out of this world because they retain that honesty and the sensitivity because they really don't have to care about the numbers and the scale. And a lot of math changes when you have that pressure too. So
Yeah.
I would, yeah, so it's a choice. And I think cinema is cinema when you really want to focus on that particular story.
As a wrap up, because there are a lot of young aspiring actors, writers, directors who are just in the waiting, and trying to find opportunities. And I mean, as it's famously known in the lingo is they're struggling, right? But what kind of an advice would you, with your experience, or suggestions would you give them so that they're not disheartened, they have something to look forward to? Because I do have all kinds of listeners on my show, and it would be interesting, and it would kind of give them that motivation and inspiration to say, yes, if Manjari can do it, so can we. So what kind of an advice would you give to these young wanting to get into cinema or theater or whatever actors?
I feel a lot of times acting as a career is looked as a vulnerable career for that matter, and it is. It is a dependent career. If you're really, really in it, you will know, and it's a hard fact. It's dependent on so many things, and there are so many aspects which are like, which are deciding whether you will get that one chance or not. It's, yeah, I mean, disappointment and feeling low and feeling of being a failure is part and parcel of this profession. So I feel, and also our culture in a way lacks the understanding and the awareness of dealing with artists, one. And secondly, as families, I mean, if you have an artist in your family, we really don't know how to deal with their lives. Like, for example, if I have a job and if I am a doctor, they're two different things. A corporate job from being a doctor is going to demand something else from my family, or at the same time, if I'm an actor or any kind of artist, it is going to be different. So my family, one, needs to know how to deal with me and my life choices and the way I'm choosing to live my life. One, that. Second, as an artist, you need to also have an added awareness about your financial state, because that really matters a lot. And third, you need to actually frame your day. We are so poor to look at what freelancing is. Like, a lot of times I keep on telling my co-artists and having a conversation with them, And I realized it took them really, really long through the process to realize working as a freelancer is a full-time job. And you need to actually put your 24 hours in a particular schedule for yourself to actually tap into your best self.
Mhm.
There's a book called An Artist Way, written by Julia Cameron, and that's such an amazing book. It's primarily for, again, writers, but it is valid for any kind of, if you're in direction, if you're a painter, if you're an like actor, it is valid for you. And that book kind of really made a difference in my life, you know, because it's like 12-week program, and then it speaks about your artistic journey and gives you a homework to do per week. So to include that homework in your daily thing, I would wake up, I would make sure I have 1 hour to work out. And the funny thing is, as actors, like if I'm a singer, if I am a painter, I know I have to do my riyas, I know I have to do something. As an actor, what do? I mean, your body, you yourself, whatever God has blessed you with is your instrument.
Yeah.
That's not the point. The point is you got to keep your instrument at your best, no matter what. If you have work, good. If you don't have work, good. So, and treating failure and success are two things which we really need to look at with the same eye, in a way, to be completely indifferent about it.
Thank you once again.
So much. I really had a great time asking all these amazing questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
For more weekly conversations, do listen to Melting Pot on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Follow us on YouTube and on Instagram at Podcast Melting Pot. So until the next episode, this is Payal signing off.